Good morning. It's 10. Good morning. It's 10:02 Friday on Friday, February 24th. We call this meeting Wichita County, Wichita order. As a reminder, today is a special non-voting session, so we will not be taking any official action. The public can join in person as well as via Zoom. Links that are on the agenda. All right. Before we get started, I am going to invite Warren. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Just to make a quick announcement.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm the president of the Junior League of Wichita Falls this year. And for the last 7 years, we've had a food drive which takes place on March 4th. And so there are 100 locations across town that will be raising or taking donations for this food drive now through March 3rd. So we want to encourage the public to go out and donate. This is a low time of year for the food bank. All of the donations will go to the Wichita Falls Area Food Bank. So we want to just encourage people to come out and donate. I know this will be a location where people can donate, so we want to thank you for that and giving us this forum to get people excited and interested in the event. And then on March 4th, we will be, that Saturday, we'll be at Market Street United, weighing donations to see which location raised the most poundage. Although it's a food fight, there will only be winners because, we're raising money we're raising donations for the food bank. So it's a competition, but also, it's all in good sport. So just thank you for your time. We've raised about 50,000 pounds over the last 7 years, so we're hoping to raise 15,000 this year.
Wow. And you're going to provide a place for us to put them in when they come in the courthouse?
Yes. We will have boxes available for those to go in.
And it'll be down in our lower round security down there somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then what if somebody wanted to give you $5 for instead of a canned product? Can they give it to security or something? Or will you have envelopes or something to make a contact?
So the Junior League will actually take those donations. So if they want to contact the Junior League directly at jlwf.org, we will turn that donation into food and donate that to the food bank.
Okay.
And that was jlwf.org.
Yes.
Junior League of Wichita Falls.
Mm-hmm. And they can also contact us on our Facebook page.
Okay.
So it's good to have really heavy items.
Yes.
Is that idea? Okay.
Yes.
Are there, in all
goods.
seriousness, are there any specific items that are
We
going to
ask not glass containers because that can be a problem with storage, but peanut butter, canned meats, canned vegetables, bottled water, all of it really makes a difference.
Well, so let's ask all our people to bring those number 10 cans. You get them at the grocery store in that section, the 1 gallon. We maybe we can do, but I always thought about something that you could eat when you take it home immediately, because I think the food bank puts care packages together for families struggling, and like soup and those kind of things that are just pretty quick, really good items.
Yes, those are good items to bring.
Okay. Well, we want to, and what do we get if we win?
You get the warm feeling of contributing to other families in need.
They will heap adulation.
Do y'all get anything if we win?
No.
The church I go to runs the bank in Iowa Park, the food bank, and one of the things that they called out for here a while back was peanut butter and hamburger helper.
Yes.
Those are 2 items that are very, very helpful, and everybody brought a bunch of peanut butter and hamburger helper. So sometimes things you wouldn't think of are really.
I call that Wednesday lunch.
We'll put you on the list.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Lauren, thank you very much for coming
you.
and the presentation, and we look forward to winning.
Well, we'll get a good workout picking up your donations.
And we have 1 box downstairs right at the front door. Is that right? Okay.
Isn't there? There's one down there now. Isn't there?
Yeah, they put it in this morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are welcome to stick around and watch.
I gotta get back to work.
Yeah, that's fine.
What type of hamburger helper do you like your peanut butter? There may be a delicacy in this in here.
Have to discuss that off.
Okay, all right.
All right. So, moving to item number 1, review and discuss regular bills.
sent out too.
We had to add a mini list. Somebody's advance somehow got caught up in the system on the due dates, and so we didn't catch it until after she had printed those.
So it's gonna be from yesterday at 12:25 is the big one, and then 4:50 is the newest. 20. And we had pulled a check off last week.
Yes, from GT Distributors, and so it is, because that person is not an employee, they are not entitled to a uniform allowance. So they have to use their budgeted uniform money in their department if they want to buy them anything as a uniform.
Okay.
So that's what that is.
And it's back on this list to be paid?
No, I mean, it's just, we'll just have to, the check is printed, and so, because it was on last week's list and we're just holding it, we just need y'all to approve it,
Okay.
that we can send it out.
So we'll, since we don't do any action today, well, I guess on Mondays,
Yeah.
it'll, okay.
Yeah. It's really the same as like our part-time person in the constable one's office, because he's doesn't get a uniform allowance. If Little wants to buy him a uniform, a shirt, or anything, it's gotta come out of his budget.
Okay.
What is, I'm seeing Dino's services here in February. They're pretty expensive for non-grass mowing time.
Are they cutting down trees?
They
Is
mowed
that what
grass.
they're doing? Do what?
I think they mowed
They may
in
have.
February.
What?
I think I see a load.
Well, one of
and
them's
a load.
800, one of them's 750 or 760. Melvin, I've got a question for you. If a public or a contracted public defender, so somebody hired by the court to represent that the public defender can't represent.
You mean like a private appointment of a private lawyer?
Appointment,
Like
yeah.
somebody off the appointment list, yeah.
Can they, if they knowingly violate protocol of some sort or do something is there any reprimand for that?
I mean, they can be removed from the appointment list is the.
They don't have
the
to,
nuclear
they never
option.
get
The
a
judges
3-month delay or anything like that?
A 3-month delay.
Like, hey, we know that we don't like what you did and you have to sit out for 3 months before you can take any more? Or
I mean, the
Does that ever
judges
happen?
kind of regulate that, the district judges and the county judges, I think too, they kind of regulate that, and they, you know, you can always bring things to their attention that are inappropriate.
So the DA would bring something to their attention if he didn't like something that had occurred?
I don't know that we don't really want to get into
Yeah.
that. I mean, we're not trying to get in between people and their attorneys. That's not something we would do really, because we don't really even know, usually we don't know about what's going on with them. You know, so anyway, I don't know that I can answer that question for you in the best way, but we tend to we don't want to get into the middle of that.
I think that's gonna be more up to discretion of a judge if
But
he
it
or
has to
she
be brought to their attention.
Yes.
Somebody could, and they have a lot of leeway. They are really kind of in complete control of that system in a lot of ways,
Okay.
in terms of who gets on that list, who, you know, and that's, in some counties that becomes a huge point of contention. I mean, like San Antonio, they created a public defender's office because of abuses with the appointment list out there, and so it's a big deal though, so.
Okay, I just didn't know what that process was, if there was something that was amiss. That,
Yeah, I don't, like I say, we don't get involved in that, but if somebody else wanted to, I'm sure you could raise it with the judges.
Dan,
yes,
what was your specific question about Dino's?
oh, Dino's, there's a 800 and a 760, Margaret. What was
Okay,
that?
Question that.
The 800 was for, them to work at juvenile. It says it's for hedge trimming, small and large, I can't say this, Yupons on Lamar.
Yopons, okay.
Yeah, it price includes cleaning flower beds, hedge trimming, other hedges on Lamar and Sixth Street.
Okay.
Bowling fees and cleaning the work area. And the $760 is for juvenile as well. It says for finishing all of the Yukon hedges and all flower beds around the juvenile building. Price includes hauling fees and cleaning the work area.
Okay.
So all of those two were specifically for juvenile.
Okay.
Chief, we have a $1,000 one for 40 millimeter launchers carrying case. Is this to shoot down the balloons?
No, it wouldn't reach that high. No, it's for our SRU guys. The 40 millimeter launcher shoots gas, CS gas into windows, things like that from a distance, so that we don't have to get close.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, you never know.
You never know.
It's balloons.
That's just the sheriff's department trying to be proactive and ready.
That's right.
We were talking about Red Dawn this morning, so. Cheryl, I think this is probably the appropriate place. Where are we on purchasing, starting up our new person?
Oh, so she starts on the 3rd, and I am probably halfway through with rewriting that policy.
Okay.
Quick question, I mean, and maybe this will be the policy, but if our guys are gonna go to a parts store and pick up a belt, do they get a PO before they go?
Yes. Everything will require a PO before it can be purchased.
Anything?
Mm-hmm.
Hand tools or? anything?
Everything, and that is local government code section 262 that we
Oh,
have.
I'm fine with it,
Yeah,
I'm just
but
trying to
yes.
make sure that.
And
Yes.
you'll give us an email saying, hey, I'm ready to go?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll get all that done. We probably won't roll out and be ready after we, y'all put it in place. Probably April 1st is when I'm hoping to kick that off, and it'll have some training that'll go with that.
What do we do, Cheryl, on like a service calls? How to best handle,
Caterpillar service call.
yeah. Like I noticed 3 invoices, they came out and did 3 different things. Should, we get a number for just that
Because
call?
we might be broke
to-
down in the middle of the road at the time we're calling them saying, hey,
Yeah.
we need somebody here quick.
Well, there's always some caveats for emergencies, but,
And
anything that we can.
Do we need to give an estimate at the time we receive the PO?
Yeah, that would be most helpful.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know how you do that, really.
That's gonna be difficult, but.
You can probably get close, and there's somewhere we can give a blanket PO doesn't necessarily have a dollar figure, but that way we get something in the system that
Well,
says
sometimes
that
you-
we've authorized that
Yeah.
that service.
You can get a
orders to
range
happen.
sometimes of, what they're,
Right,
I mean, their service calls are outrageous anyway, but then you find that essentially cost you $2,000 and you weren't quite expecting it to be but about 40.
and this will also eliminate a lot of those after purchase approvals that we always have to send out, so if it's done in the front end, you won't have to be doing it on the back end.
I think it'll be good. There'll be, there'll be some growing pains for
It
all
will
of
be
us.
growing pains, and that first year, everybody's gonna hate it and be stuck, but once you get used to it, then you're good. Kinda like Time Clock and Munis and Odyssey and whatever.
well, certainly in the era of the cell phone, it'll be a lot better than it would have been, 30 years ago when you'd have to make an extra trip to go find a telephone to call and get a PO or something, so it'll make it a whole lot better.
Autopsy fees were nearly 11,000. Is that a typical?
It hasn't been, but it has been the last couple of months.
I knew we'd had a
But-
bunch the last couple
Yeah,
months.
5 or 6,000 is high.
Okay.
That hadn't been typical before.
And I knew December and January were both higher than what we've gotten used to.
slatting in the fence. Are we doing that internally or externally?
Why do you do this to me? I came here prepared for the jail. I got I had no idea.
I
You know,
looked
Will
and
takes
I
care
just-
of all that, and he's on vacation.
Okay, I looked yesterday and I didn't see them, and I just wondered if we were waiting on somebody or we're gonna have our guys do it, or how tricky
Will,
it is.
Will
I
takes
don't
care of
know.
the building out there. I don't know.
See, I asked you a question you were ready for.
Yeah, like that.
Patrick, what is the meaning of lights?
He's never gonna come back.
I don't know, we're pretty entertaining. I don't see why you wouldn't want to come back, but.
He can watch it via Zoom.
Are we getting close to be through hauling rock?
No, I think we still.
Mickey, are
Mickey,
you-
where are you at?
We should finish today on work.
Okay.
Well, then we, just like Mark then, once that happens.
That'll take a little of this fuel bill away.
I'll save it.
And a few of these rock bills, that would be the most preferable.
And I think, Jeff, all the truck, I think they've been filling up on my yard.
Okay, good. I just had one, and it was back on the 6th, and probably because they didn't have an option, and so I could tell I wasn't filling up.
That is one thing that was in the school we were at. There was an ask that our road fuel be non-taxed by the legislature. There's a bill coming right now.
Is our dyed diesel taxed?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, our dyed,
No, no,
no,
it's
our dyed
not.
diesel is not.
Not
Clear
there.
diesel
Yeah.
is taxed, but they're talking about allowing us to buy clear without tax.
Similar to what school buses.
And that's what you wanna do, because some of that red diesel is a grade below. You gotta be
Okay.
careful of that. Not all of it, but some of it
Okay.
is. Some of it's just dyed, but some of it is like a different cetane rating or something. You gotta really know what you're,
So,
Yeah.
different sulfur content, I think that's it. We don't need anything else to make the lights come on, I'll tell you for sure.
I had asked Debbie, or she hadn't got the information yet from Martin Patrick, but if you had to, for $1,000 guess, from October till now, how many incidents involving the body shop have you been involved with? October 1 through now.
Not counting the one we just turned over,
Accounting the one you just turned over.
probably 6 or 7.
And then the one you would expect to have a quote on the one that laid over on its side just any day, right?
Yes, sir. He came out yesterday and he told us there's nothing he can do for it. It's still
You never save it, I was afraid of that.
can't save it.
The roof looked a little twisted to me.
So it
just
did
from
come
the
over?
photograph. Yeah,
Yes, sir,
I
it went
told
over,
everybody
way
it
over.
just went on its side.
you could see the crease and I said, that's not gonna work.
could y'all maybe like slow down on
I'm not gonna answer.
One of the things we may wanna consider, like we've done in the past, depending on the settlement on that thing and the mileage and all, we may wanna harvest parts off that car.
We've already got mobile phone scheduled to come out and start removing those things that we can use.
Well, and I'm talking about
But
engine,
he's talking about
transmission.
engines,
Oh,
wheels,
Yeah,
We may have to deal with TAC before we.
yeah, well,
Yes.
If they
depending
totally-
on, depending on the settlement and all, and if we could buy the
But our
salvage,
extra,
that
our
might
mobile
be
phone stuff,
worth.
yeah, that's different.
Melvin, is that gonna include the, radio,
Well,
radars?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I would
Well,
clear-
it
I would
does
clear
include it.
I would clear it with tax.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they're insuring that thing complete, and
Yeah.
if it went in the lake, you get paid for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't start taking parts out of it until you clear it.
And they may want to send their own person to look at. I just don't know. I don't know that they have different. I've never handled one quite like this yet, so this is a new one for me. But
Yeah.
they can do that. They can send their own adjusters and that sort of thing. So that's one thing we need to.
And Melvin, we closed the claim, correct? You have one from your office with TAC.
Are you referring to the? We did just do one where we had a check and.
Can you tell us about that? What was the extent of the damage?
So if we're talking about the one that we just did, it just went over our deductible. Like we have a $5,000 deductible. And
On the
this-
sheriff's vehicles?
on all vehicles, it's a $5,000 deductible, and that damage on that particular instance was like, I don't remember the exact number, but it was basically roughly like $1,200 over the deductible that we received that difference. We of course were responsible for the up to the $5,000. But it was, obviously, that one had a little bit of some logistical issues with them, but I feel like we've hammered that out.
Was it a two-time wrecked vehicle?
It was a yes, and it was unusual facts, and it kind of threw a wrench in them a little bit because they were just kind of not used to that, because it was one where there was a chase, wreck, and then like really soon after, before they could get it off the road, there's another chase and another instance of it getting kind of just some damage to it. So it was 2 incidents.
Okay.
The same
And
day.
it was the same within hours of each other.
But we were deemed at fault.
No, it was it's really not that kind of coverage. It's a collision type claim, so there's
So
not
what
really a
happens
fault.
what happens if the person hitting us, insurance pays? What does that do with our $5,000 deductible?
Whatever the subrogation, we're referring to subrogation, and now the TAC will go with that insurance company, and they will work out their own payment, okay, for what they have paid. Now, from our end, we don't really. I don't.
But
TAC
my
pays us, and then
question-
they get with their
Yes,
insurance
TAC
company.
will go get with that insurance company and get the subrogation.
But my question
resolved.
is, I've got $6,500 worth of damage. TAC made me whole by giving us a $1,500 check
Yeah.
because we have a five. Now TAC goes out and collects $6,500. Do I get another check from TAC?
They should make you whole on your deductible.
Well, that I don't know. I don't know how they handle that. And that's something we
If
can
it's the
keep
other
an eye
guy's
on.
fault, they should
Yeah.
make you whole,
And-
which includes deductible.
And it'd be a good question for today, but our Caterpillars or dozers, road graders, if we have something bad happen, I've got $1,000 deductible. And we've got way more equipment than the sheriff's office has.
That's the TAC policy.
Is that, under the TAC policy?
That's on the.
That's a question we'll ask today, because
But their vehicles are at much more risk than your Caterpillar
Yeah,
getting,
true.
Yeah.
sideswiped or whatever.
Yeah.
No, my only
they're
point
not
in
gonna
that
take on a
is,
Caterpillar.
if that is a fairly low mileage unit, we wanna look into harvesting parts, cause we're running so many of those
Yeah,
things.
maybe we take it back or buy it back or whatever.
Let's don't give that option up before we at least study it.
Our equipment policy, what they're telling us, payback is going to be 2 years old, 2 years and older, 2 years and younger. So at 2 years and younger, they consider it, at a total loss, they buy new value. But older than 2 years, it's at market value.
okay.
So we need to trade everything every year.
Well, you'd think that,
No, I take that as.
I think we might be getting.
Because I know.
I think we might be getting off this again. Barry's trying to have us buy Brandon Fleet.
That's a no, yeah.
well, Patrick, I may have some questions. I'm gonna try to get those Martin invoices. And Cheryl, would you have those under
Yes.
Martin? That
Yes, I
some-
do have those.
Could send me and let me follow up, cause he may have October invoice, but it could be a September rec. I
Yeah,
guess.
we have those all. I'm gonna tell you, we probably need to be going out for bids on that stuff. We spent $94,000 with them last year, and we are well over the $50,000 262.
That
Can we bid it annually? Can we
You
bid?
can.
And what do you bid it for hourly work?
Yeah,
or-
that's, I don't know, because 262, 'cause I've heard this now 3 times over the last month and a half, doesn't necessarily come into play when you're not talking about the same purchase, and we're not.
Same vendor though.
Yeah, same vendor.
And I'm
same
not saying
kind
it's
of
not a good
service.
idea to go out and get a bid, it's just,
Yeah, there is some.
See, and that's basically what Bruckner's was telling us. City of Wichita Falls keeps an open PO.
Right.
They may have purchases of 1,000, 2,000,
Right.
but then they deem that a separate person. Next week, they go and get a $2,500 part, it doesn't roll.
It sort of depends on the kind of service, so they, not just is it vendor by service, but it's also by, same type of service, so
Gotcha.
we kinda run into those, so I mean, it is
Yeah.
probably something we should be
Yes, ma'am.
bidding if we're gonna be
Sorry,
spending.
Cheryl.
Yes,
What dates do you want the invoices from, and do you just wanna see the actual invoices?
Yes, October forward all the way to current, Margaret.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
we're all good on bills.
Good, I think so.
Okay. Alright, we'll move on to item number 2, discuss and review jail maintenance projects and work orders. Chief, your time to shine.
It doesn't appear we have anything really out of normal. They got the windows replaced and we got some. One thing that y'all would be interested in is the thermal inspection for the electrical panels. This was done at the request of the insurance. They talked to Nate from Willen at the end of January to schedule an inspection, and they're supposed to follow up with a firm date. They haven't given us one yet, but they're expecting it sometime this month. And they're still waiting on the RTU filter quotes so that they can start taking care of that and get those replaced, or figure out how it's going to be done. You know, say schedule a date and time with the people who are going to do it. Other than that, it's all just routine stuff that's on here. I do know, well, a little separate from that, that the jail hired, you know, as far as about the overtime, the jail hired 11 last week. They're working 4 right now, but as of right now, we still have 24 openings in the jail. So,
That's bad, but I don't remember it being that low in quite some time, so.
And in talking at everybody at that conference, we are not the only ones.
In fact, I think we may
We
be
may
better
be
shape
better
than
shape
a lot
than
of
a
them.
lot, you're right.
And did you say, Chief, the glass has been installed, or?
in 6 of them, he's taken
Six.
2 out to have it sent to Hawkins and have it resurfaced because they could be fixed.
Okay.
So, but he hadn't had a chance to pull those 2 yet, but 6 have been replaced.
And does this also include the panel to the floor below
No,
the
no,
glass?
this is just the glass
Just
pieces
glass.
that go in solitaire.
Okay. And y'all are still, I guess y'all are still working with Ricky on the filter quotes, you said, or?
Well, at the last commissioner's court that I attended, I was under the impression that one of y'all was,
Mickey
Go
had
on
a
the lookout.
ideal, didn't you, Mick?
Yeah, and I've talked to Ricky, so I'll be back with you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just make sure, get y'all connected.
okay, but if there's something that y'all would like for us to do, please let me know, send me an email or give me a call.
What year model, Patrick, was that car that bit the dust Monday?
2018. And it's probably got between 70 and 90,000 miles, so. But a lot of that equipment, like the body camera stuff, that was just put in, that was just purchased and just installed.
But you know, well, that's.
Well, 70 and 80 is not a lot of miles on that drivetrain. It would have been 20 years ago, but not, that's not considered extremely high.
I guess
depending-
we'll see how.
Yeah, just have to check it, you can find out, and,
All right, any other questions on jail maintenance work orders? All right, we'll head to item number 3, receive status report on salaries and overtime. Do I?
He did knock you over, in other words, when you looked at it.
And I mean, at some point for 2024 budget discussions, we may just have to recalibrate. It doesn't seem to be getting any better now. 9 months is a long time, but
Correct.
Well, it is better in the sense that we're talking $1 million instead of $1.4 million, $1.3 million, so we're up a solid 300 grand at least.
and Chief, this may be a question for Will. As that overtime, or as that shortage starts to come down, do you have any idea what that number is, where it does tangibly start to affect the overtime numbers?
From what I was told from listening to he and Patterson talk about this, when we get down to about 10, having 10, that we can redo the schedule so that there's not automatically scheduled overtime.
Okay.
Because right now the guys are working 60 hours a week, so we'll be able to get that down to the 36, 48, or 44 schedule,
Okay.
so that we put them back at 48 or 84 hours a week.
So still got a ways to go before.
Yes, sir.
I'm always fascinated by how much holidays affect the cost per working hour.
But Victor, tell me about that on the spreadsheet. What is, when I look at the total, it roll up in 561, my regular hours at the beginning of the sheet is 68, then I fall to 1900. Maybe a special week of some sort. Then I go back up to 12.5. Then I fall to 9,000. And this week they came in at 9,000, which combined is less hours than what we've been. What makes that big discrepancy on regular hours?
There's another little row in there that has the non-working hours as well. It's just like a 2 below it. That also fluctuates it. The more non-working hours, like sick or vacation, usually decreases the amount of regular hours that you have in there. But it's mostly constant. It's mostly like 9,000 to 10,000 actual hours that you get from time clock.
Jeff, I think that one is explained by the fact that that first pay period, 1/5,
Was split?
was split, so it's just a one.
Oh yes, yeah. It looks kind of weird, but yeah, the
Gotcha.
the first little column there that says 1231.
Okay.
That's all each 2022.
All right, do you have any other questions or comments on that item? All right, Victor, thank you. All right, item number 4, discussions on the county auditor's monthly report for January. So first of all, Cheryl, I'm excited. Thank you for doing this. I know it's required by code, but
It is.
thank you. I think that'll, especially as the year goes on and we get more data in here as we spend money and receive money this week, extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a report or just answer questions?
I mean, really either is fine. I think y'all probably already have your questions in mind, but, this is generally, so the first part is cash. Obviously there's no balance sheet on here yet, and, this is cash balances, what is in the bank, what is, so the first report has, a statement of cash all funds, so this is by fund, your cash in the bank, what's in a credit card, how much our limits are, how much is tied up in investments, meaning CDs, and then text pool, what's in text pool for your total cash balances, as of January 31 of 23.
Oh,
Where's that email? Cause I'm looking
I
at.
just sent it to you all right before this meeting.
Yeah, I see
Okay.
it just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I,
yeah, because it was on.
I don't see.
And Cheryl,
That may be it right there, okay.
wonder about the reserve for self-insurance.
yes, that
We
is.
we don't have any type of policy that we fund to that, correct?
It comes from a consolidated court cost, fee off of, mostly out of the district clerks, but no, it's not really collecting any more money. It's not anything that we can really spend it on.
Well, why
It's-
would we have it?
Well, some of our clerks are self-insured, so the district clerk and the county clerk are self-insured. We don't have bonds on them. So should they be sued, this fund is what.
Really?
Yes, well, we can carry a bond, so it was created in statute to allow for that if it was unfeasible by cost to get them a bond. And it has just continued practice. The rest of us are all bonded, but currently the county and district clerk are not bonded.
We have $3.8 million.
We do.
Why,
Sitting.
I mean, so a
Correct.
net is not bonded?
No. So if she is sued, we have to use this fund to settle or
Well,
pay the court costs or
But
whatever.
if I'm bonded and you sue me,
Yeah.
can you exceed that bond limit?
Theoretically, yes.
I thought there was a limit on our lawsuits, 100,000.
Yeah, it depends on the office. So like the treasurer has a lot more risk. So his bond is 200,000 because he handles so much more
What I'm
cash.
saying is-
Yes, so there are.
Maximum payout. If somebody sues the county, there's some limits in there.
There are some limits, but it depends, I think, on the case and the judge. If you're egregious in your conduct and it goes beyond, I think that there could be some suits personally as well that are attached. But yes, your bond should have limits on that.
And but would we also, self-insurance be, if we had to pay $1 million deductible for a roof repair? Would that fall under this?
I would have to look at the statute on that. I don't know for sure on that one. It's been growing over time. It just
With
grows and
interest?
grows.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we're not funding it.
It's minimal that comes in from those consolidated court costs.
Okay.
So,
And I also heard a Clay County Commission report where they were purchasing some equipment out of the IT fund that was derived from court costs in the JP's office.
so the JP has their own technology fund that can be used, and so it has to be set up separately by statute, and that fund can be used for technology in their offices, yes.
Do
And-
we have that set up?
We
We've
do.
done it in the
Mhm.
past, yeah.
Yeah, we have a JP, it's a Justice Courts Technology, it's got $96,000 in it. And we budgeted
picked
it.
something up in that, and I can't remember what it was, not a year ago.
Well, it
or something.
sounded
It was
familiar to me
Right.
when they said that, but I just don't remember any agenda items ever dealing with it much, but.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much that they've been doing in their offices, but yes, so those are all these special revenue funds that prior to 23 we didn't budget for. It has to be budgeted for if we want to use it. There are some caveats on who can authorize the purchase of those. I
can't even remember what it was, but we had that discussion. So in other words, it's not an emergency deal, it would have to be a budgeted.
it has to be budgeted. All of these special revenue funds are set up by statute and must be budgeted in order to technically use them. And so that's why we budgeted for them in 23. And that's why your budget went from real little to like real big, because I had to budget for all these special revenue. And it was really a shot in the dark on how much we thought we might spend. And we may or may not use it. I don't know.
We want to keep that in mind when we do our remodel.
Mm-hmm.
If there was an upgrade or something we were
Yeah.
gonna do, get that in the budget.
Well, and
This is just for JP's though?
Yes, the Justice Courts
Justice Court
is just JP's.
Brendan, will we incur some costs with those new credit card machines in those offices that you'll have to change out some components to?
Shouldn't.
Okay. So, when Cheryl, I'm looking down the list here and I show the sheriff and the district clerk,
Okay, so those are what's called custodial funds. So in that sheriff's fund, that is going to be his DCIF, inmate account, his forfeiture funds,
all rolled into one.
all rolled into one there. That's for the sheriff. The district clerk, those are going to be her registry accounts. So technically that money actually belongs to someone else. It's not county funds, but
Like,
she is...
in trust, held in
Right,
trust.
yes. Same for the tax, those are funds that have come in and not yet been dispersed out
Okay.
to a taxing entity. It could be
Okay.
some of us, it just hasn't made its way out of their account yet.
Same as DA.
Criminal district attorney, those are gonna be his forfeiture accounts, yes.
Okay.
That's why it's all kept in cash.
It is, it's all largely kept in cash. Tax has some in tax pool, looks like, where we're just earning some interest on them. But for the most part, those custodial funds have to be reported separately. It's under GASB 84 now.
And then I did, while we were talking about these funds, made me think, you were going to reach out to the controller and ask about us buying the upgraded, it was $8,000 roughly, poll pad software, using some money from your,
The chapter 19 funds.
yeah,
I was doing research, but I don't think we can use it for software,
okay. Strictly for advertising?
for advertising for voter registration, or anything that has to do with voter registration.
Okay,
And that's elections, that's not voter registration.
okay. I was wondering about that, I forgot to follow up with you.
Since you're back and
I know, someone's downstairs didn't make it because I got the text. I
Oh,
couldn't
that's
make it.
fine. So page 19 of the report.
Where are you seeing page numbers?
So once you get past the initial,
Oh, okay.
The second.
unit still, yeah,
Okay.
And I just noted there were three different departments that were on pace to be, they'd already spent over 10% of what was budgeted for the year, and I was just gonna ask questions on it. One of them was elections. We had budgeted 60,000 for repairs and maintenance. We've spent 67,697. Was that for?
Is that for the heart?
It may be
Is that for the heart?
something for the heart, yeah. And it may be that this is something that we still need to accrue back to 22's budget, but it's
Okay.
cash that came out in 23.
Okay.
Repairs and maintenance and just elections?
My guess is that it
Yes,
probably
they're-
includes like a contract for,
There's the contract, and also I did get notification that I guess we're supposed to do yearly maintenance on it,
Mm-hmm.
so it's up again.
So let's see if I can. On the actual report when it's emailed to you guys, it comes with blue hyperlinks. So if you click on them, it will take you to your Munis login, and then it'll take you directly to that.
keep clicking this paper and
Yeah,
it's not doing.
Where's the hyperlink from here? I'm on it.
So if you click on,
anywhere there's blue has a hyperlink on it, and it'll take you to that inquiry, and then you can go to the folder and actually see what the actual invoices were if you're ever. Yeah, annual support, and then is.
Oh, goodness, it's making me log into time.
It will make you log in, but yeah.
for future
I'll have
reports,
to go to my
we'll look at
desk.
it.
I'll have to go to my desk and get my
I was
So-
gonna say, I gotta go get my little book, if I'm gonna do that.
But yeah, 59, almost 60,000 was for Hart for it's the renewal of the license. And then
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
and then the other part, was another renewal, annual renewal. So
Even our hourly, I mean, year to date.
Well, that's two hour advantage.
We budgeted 21,000, we're,
And credited
oh,
24.
we're credited. I was looking at that negative 112%.
And Cheryl, when I look at the road and bridge, stuff on page 2 and 3, what makes our other revenues fluctuate?
it could be. Let me look.
What would be other revenues?
Yeah, what is that, I guess, too?
We don't do fines and fees, do we?
It's a
Well,
separate line,
Yeah.
and it's equal.
Okay, let's see what we've got in here. It's pretty much a catch-all for everything else. So let me see what we.
You talked about Jeff. It's 20 in one, 12 in another.
Would that be
Yeah.
interest?
Now, interest has its own line.
Okay.
So it's really, let's see, bank analysis hits that. Bank analysis kind of hits that depending on how the bank does stuff. It also can be, let's see, some of the deferred taxes. No, that goes into its own line. It's really just a catch-all. Anytime you sell scrap, anytime there's a bank analysis that you get a credit back for, it's really a miscellaneous income line. Anything that doesn't fit in one of those other spots pretty much goes in other revenue.
And Brendan, on IT, so this would be, it's page 9 of my report, but, let's see. Well, it's not page 9, I don't have it in my thing. I just noticed that for y'all, because court has had to approve, y'all have had a lot of your maintenance contracts that are front-loaded at the front of the year, is that right? Because y'all were I think y'all were at 10% or so of total budget spent so far.
16.1 from what I see, but
I'll take your word for it, because I didn't write that down, I wrote that wrong page.
but we also did the computer purchases earlier in the year too,
Yeah.
which last year we did later, but we got a better purchase price by going earlier in the year. So we did a few of our major purchases earlier than normal.
Okay.
Cheryl, when I look like on page 4 for county clerk and district clerk monies, are those monies that have came in across the year or came in for the month of January? What am I
This is
seeing?
all January.
Okay.
those things to remember for 24 budget when we're doing it. Interpreter fees
Yes.
have already exceeded the budget by nearly 3 times in 1 month in.
Yeah, some years are heavier than
Yeah.
others. It really depends on.
It's not a huge amount.
No, but
We're talking about
it's
it.
February, and so
Yeah.
we don't know what the rest of the year is going to hold.
We might anticipate that to get, or
Yeah.
Right.
not where we want.
And so it's the beauty with Munis as it goes on is that you can see several years at a time. So we can start running, averages on a 3-year basis and start budgeting some of those things on that so that you don't get those cyclical years.
Very excited.
I'm too.
And Mel, if the JP's doing arraignment, I see this happen on video, and she asked who needs a public defender or a court-appointed attorney. Everybody raised their hand. What, is there any follow-through with any of that? If I fill out the paperwork, and I'd taken a call the other day about a guy that doing electrical contract work in Wichita, got penalty here, charged with not reporting. He was an offender. He lives in Houston, Texas, and of course, we're still going after him for this fine. But we're also paying the attorney to represent him from Wichita County. He's in Harris County. Is there...
So the way it works is the judges control whether somebody's entitled to that lawyer. That person fills out the paperwork, and it has been scrutinized by some judges before recently. Now, I don't know how systematic that is, but that's as far as I know about really how they get into that. Now, there's some very specifics on what the standard is fairly broad to get a public defender or an appointed lawyer. There's a lot of things that are not even considered financially. I don't have all the details on that off the top of my head, but I can tell you, you can own a home, you can have like lots of, you can get a lawyer appointed pretty broadly. Some of that's out of everybody's control. That's the legislature, that's the courts, that's a lot of things. So, but yeah, to answer your question, that's really kind of up to the judges to kind of scrutinize that.
But there's not a software that we plug Jim Brown into
No.
that scrutinizes him and say, he's
It's
got all
based
these
on
assets.
affidavits that the person fills out, and if they want to really dig in the weeds on that can be done, but it is not easy to do. There's not some software magic bullet that will do that for us.
Yeah, there's not an income threshold or asset threshold. There's a lot of factors, so it's judgment call.
And they don't wanna, it takes a lot of time to try to check it out.
And it takes a lot of money to fund it too. So
Tremendously.
it
But
grows annually. So
I think it should be a lot more strict deal, but I don't see the courts wanting to.
I mean, if I was in a fine capacity in jail, like the Harris County guy I'm talking about, why wouldn't you raise your hand?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm gonna do life in the pen, and so I want the best representation possible. I just need somebody, to fill the gap and keeps me from paying, so why wouldn't I raise my hand? It encourages me to raise my hand.
There are quite a few people on minor things, misdemeanors, that sort of thing, that do handle their own. They kind of do their own deal. I mean, that does happen too. If it is minor, it's again, that's hit or miss. I don't know all the numbers on that, but I get surprised sometimes by some of that. So, and some people just can't even fill out paperwork. So there's always that too. And I do think there's an element of judges also. They kind of have a balance they have to weigh. If they have a pro se person, a person representing themselves, they know that's going to be a chore on its own as well. Whereas if they have a lawyer, things can move, things can get resolved. So again, I don't know, no judges tell me about that, but I can imagine that can be a consideration for some of them. I don't,
I would assume some of them could be $300, $500 deals. And how much research can you do?
Yeah, how much can the judge go fight over looking into this? You gotta have a hearing. You gotta have like a hearing, bring a person in, to, start, try to figure that all out. So that's a whole nother time suck to spend. So anyway,
you know, when
I don't know a good answer for that one other than it's out of our hands, kind of.
When I came on in 2015, I remember sitting down with James and going over some of those costs. At that time, the Public Defender's Office was just about $1 million funded as a department. Today, that exceeds $2 million. And the attorneys that were on the other side that also help out in that instance, those contracted attorneys, were about $2 million. Now that has doubled.
Yeah.
So what used to be $3 million expense when I came on 8 years ago, now is $6 million, and which is a solid 3.5 cents on our tax rate.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll pursue this separately, but you made me think, this came up on the state side where there are databases and the capabilities out there to do essentially immediate checks of
Of a quick service.
income, assets, because the
Based on the
state
Social
does it
Security
for Medicaid checks.
Okay.
So, I mean, it might be worth talking to state partners on if there were, because it may even be against state law right now to try to check it in such a way. But, I mean, that might be something worth tracking down.
But if you got your assets in real estate, I would assume there's some homestead protection and.
There are, well, yes, there are homestead protection,
Yeah,
you
that's
can't touch it with
factors in there,
bankruptcy,
so-
so.
Anyway, but it is, and here we sit, not just in that, Jeff, but in a lot of areas, the trend
Yeah.
Correct.
on all these
Yeah, it's
costs
going the wrong way.
are going
But
the
all the
wrong
costs
way,
are going up,
and
their
so-
hourly rates are going, I'm like, attorneys' hourly rates are gonna go up as their expenses go up
Sure.
outside, so.
You've got to look at all these things to try to,
And this is why our public defender office becomes even more important as time goes on in restraining those costs by, because they
well,
are.
it's in a more budgetable
Yeah.
cost, I would think. Yeah, you've got a pretty good idea that, you know, your cost's gonna be X number of dollars a year. Other than that, other thing could be wide open.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that bothers me too, when you look at the murder rate in Wichita Falls, what I see when I see that is, capital murder trial.
Right.
Oh my goodness, you talk about a budget buster. You know, you get you several of those, and we used to have, what, one a year?
Yeah.
Well, that's where we've been fortunate with that capital murder,
Yeah.
grant that we,
Right, I mean,
Able to get.
that's scary, with at the rate that's increasing. Because those deals will get in your pocket in a hurry.
Cheryl, do you know does the health department give us an itemized breakdown of our contribution annually when we consider that amount in the budget?
I haven't seen one, but that doesn't mean it didn't come to my office, though.
Do you know, Nancy, have you ever seen that? Because I was telling Jim when we met recently, they mentioned some individual cost. I don't ever remember being told that. I remember talking as a whole and in general, but I didn't know the breakdown. Health district.
The
You know,
health
we give them
district,
what,
the
120?
city county health district. I don't
But-
know that I've ever seen a breakdown of,
They do present a breakdown, and it would be in your budget books, but let me see if I can dig them up
Okay,
electronically.
and Barry, one thing
I may
just
just
that
not
I
have
told
seen it.
Jim, something that came up in our meeting.
cause that's one of those departments that
Was-
Judge kind of handled.
Yeah.
They are spending external of, it sounded rurally in their county, $40,000 for mosquito control. And I told Jim, I'd rather throw it out the window driving down the highway, because.
There is no mosquito control.
Well, that's what you've always
Yeah.
said, and that, you know, it's a feel good, but it's a $40,000 feel good.
People like to see the truck drive by.
I don't
but
mind
you're
the
not really- you're not
$5,000
really
field
controlling. Yeah, you're not controlling mosquitoes, you're just not.
Especially when they drive by doing 30.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, we don't really have an effective way to do
It's
it.
Texas, it's,
You can do some things in your own yard, to
Right.
make it a little
Well-
more tolerable, but if you're out trying to do that in the country, I'm sorry, folks,
Well,
there's, you know.
So, and one of the reasons I
They'll,
ask is
they'll
that,
outgrow you, I
you know,
promise you.
we utilize them to manage our septic systems in rural outside of city limits. And I've recently been watching one go in, and I've never noticed anybody come up other than the installer to shoot the elevations. I've held my license and I know what's required.
Yeah.
And
They'll let them send in pictures right now, which I thought was kind of odd.
I think it's very odd.
It's gonna come back to haunt us.
That's not good.
I don't know what it is.
I've had
I
two or
didn't
three
know that
encounters over
they
the
were
last
allowing pictures to be.
few months, and it's not what it used to be.
No, because you can't tell elevations, you can't do.
When you've got that irrigation ditch running 24/7 through that part of the world out there,
Yeah.
you're not gonna control mosquitoes, you're just not going to.
No.
It's a nice thought, but,
Mhm.
not gonna happen.
Now, as we grow and develop this report and try to make it more useful, is there something else that y'all would like to see?
Well, I'm just so
This is-
pleased with it.
I mean,
Cheryl.
this is
It's
a
so-
starting point, obviously, and we're
Well,
working on it.
absolutely. I
This is
just,
gonna get much better as we go along.
yeah, we'll
As you get
understand it
data.
better
Yeah.
and everything, and then you can point out some.
I think
things.
getting it on a monthly basis with this synopsis kind of overview lets you see what you're approving
Absolutely.
weekly.
This is a key budgeting tool.
Yes.
Very
Absolutely.
key.
Yes.
Because it's
This is
really
what
hard to
you're-
put in aggregate, oh yeah, you look at the individual bills, but how it comes together and where we're at total budget, where we're gonna be busting budgets early.
And it gives you a pretty good glimpse of cash flow too.
It does.
You know, there are some things where you have a lot of cash flow early in the year.
Right, and so we'll see a lot of cash flow start to decrease now that we're past the tax. That's February 1st, you know, we'll
Yeah.
see a huge decline in tax revenue, and the rest of it will be coming from fee offices, so.
You know, we've been very fortunate in Wichita County because our tax payments over the years have been very timely.
Yes.
And that's always a concern when you get into a tight economy. I mean, we talked about it this year, there was some very large accounts that, you know, I know. when
That's why we
Tom
have
would get
so
a
many-
check, he'd
right.
kind of do a, yeah.
And we have
Yeah.
so much of it sitting in tax pool where it's earning the most interest that we can get, and
Yeah.
it's liquid, so if we need it. it's
So,
available.
Great tool.
Cheryl, on 19, on elections,
Yeah.
other salaries equal 145,000 in the month of January. Shouldn't that just be the two girls in elections?
Let's see what we got in others. Page 19 on expenditures. I think all of the election people are in there. Other salaries is gonna be, that's what's budgeted. So, there's actually 3 or 4, I think it's 3 positions that are actually budgeted in that department.
What, $3,100?
Yeah, we only spent 3,100, so it's gonna be,
Even though it says other salaries, that's really the.
so other salaries is anybody that's not on a
Elected or-
appointed official, goes in that 1,200,
Gotcha.
that 1,200.
Yeah, you got the elected, appointed, and then the other salary. I
Right.
see that.
Mhm, And then hourly, if they're an hourly employee, then there'll be an hourly line. So that'll be, like, the hourly line for elections is gonna be, those election workers and stuff, so.
Do you know why the credit appeared?
I was
that.
just looking at that.
Was it payment for elections?
It could be, let
We'll
me
go
see.
Print us a copy of this in our printing.
It is a cash receipt that came in from the
Double
ISD for their
sided,
portion of
maybe.
elections. And so typically with those, I don't do contra accounts because those are they're hard to understand. So the way contract counts is you'd have a line item for the revenue and a line item for the expense. And so unless you can put those together, you can't see how they match. So I run everything through the one line. If the expense comes out, then the revenue that comes in goes right back to that expense line so that you can see it in one place.
And Cheryl, would you look on the page 25, the Electra Annex? It doesn't appear, even though I've got that money setting there, that those operating supplies are coming out of that.
So
Are they being picked up by Precinct 4 Road and Bridge?
I mean, it's possible that that could have happened as if it's not actually for the building, or it could be that there weren't any in January.
Jeff, have you not paid your electric bill over there?
And see, well, Barry's same thing happens to you, Barry.
Utilities.
You may have your lights.
Yeah, utilities was set, but it didn't.
See, I see some in utilities for Electra and for the year. Let's see. And it could be a timing difference where it hit in December and then paid in February. City of Electra, I see. That's
You
gonna
got a
be
solar
water
panel
though.
over there or something?
No.
Well, all of our annexes are kind of the same, they're
Yeah.
not really.
I'm looking at,
So I see a bill to the City of
well, mine's the
Electra.
same way, it doesn't show any payment. Of that.
So it looks like, see, this one, the invoice date was January and it was paid in February. So I think that's just a timing difference on where we tried to rush in all those payments at
picked it
year
up,
end
yeah,
and then it was
okay.
not picked up again until February. But I will put that on my list to double check.
That's why we needed Joe to leave the paper one of the days we print up the budget. I was disappointed, I thought we were gonna get that. If we all print us up a copy of this, we'll have to raise our paper budget.
Yeah, we're not. That's why you get it in electronic
Yeah,
format.
there you go.
Patrick, are you seeing, you don't see this or get to review this, do you?
I have not seen that.
I mean, you're really on track, pretty much, but it could easily get,
And this is where all departments and their heads can all have access in Munis to watch their budgets. And the PO system, when that purchasing goes in, will also assist in that.
so this is indicating, Patrick, that you spent 7.5% in the month of January of your allotted budget.
That's gonna capture over time too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
After listening to talk radio all the way home from College Station yesterday, I'm beginning nervous at looking at the amount of money we're paying to Social Security every month. That I understand in 2 years is not good. Should I be concerned about that?
Well, they've only
You
been
should-
saying it's gonna be broken,
You should
you
listen
know.
in.
Don't you remember the lockbox?
Yeah, he's laughing now.
That was a big topic of discussion yesterday on the road. You gotta be careful what you listen to. We don't need a bunch of suicidal drivers going up and down.
This, Cheryl, 16560 on page 38, attorney fees and county programs. I'm noticing it's a little high. Is that the third party?
656, yeah, that's charity, that's our third party.
Okay.
Mhm.
Media, gas,
And those are gonna be, we budget a lot in there.
Yeah.
Sorry
Not
about
real
that.
happy about that.
Well, I become more tool as time goes along. A lot of good stuff here.
Yes, and then this report is now on our website as well. And as we are adding those reports that are required by our office and other fee offices, as we're starting to get them, there is an award from the state that's on my goal list there with our website. It's a Transparency Star Award, and there are only 19 of 254 counties with that award.
This whole document is on our website.
It is.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that because it lets anyone who wants to see what we see.
And they're entitled to it.
Mm-hmm.
We just think what the federal version of this would look like.
Well, that would
A
require
number, yeah, this one.
that would require them to pass a budget.
You'd have to scroll over on your page to get to the decimal
They
point.
haven't done a budget.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, Trump had a
Yeah,
budget.
there was one.
Obama didn't have a budget at all. I don't know that Biden's passed one.
And you mean Congress during those presidents? It's not president.
But it's still his job to present the budget. You can't vote on something that's not presented to you.
I'm going to protect the legislative branch's authority given to them by the Constitution. I do have one question for you on the capital projects thing, if I may.
Yes.
It's part of another.
That's a different report, right?
That's the one I sent yesterday. I kind of, yes, so that y'all could.
Well, and I know we're going to have a separate agenda item to get into the weeds on this one. The revenues for 2020 and 2021.
Largely interest for the
Okay.
LAC bond.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can use that however we.
It's been used on the LAC. Pretty much any interest on the LAC bond has been used on the LAC. That's why there's only roughly
But
$600.
there's no option, is there? Can we use that interest anywhere?
Yeah, that's why.
I don't know that we can. I think it had to be used on the LAC. So technically, the LAC's cost roughly $73 million, not 70, because of all the interest we've earned.
Right.
So when I'm looking at this is from the 23 adopted budget,
Mhm.
and it's got the other revenues of 479 or 269. That's interesting.
Interest and, yeah.
Okay.
They used to put rent in there, and that didn't make any sense to me. That rent from the Sprague Annex would go back to the building. That's not what pays for it. So now rent goes to the general fund because that's where it pays the maintenance on
Right.
the buildings.
I also saw we have two notes coming off that mature this year.
Yes. So
Because I was figuring
our
to say,
debt will
if
decrease.
that money was usable interest-wise, we'd be wise to pay off one of those notes that are paying off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't feel that's.
I don't think we can. I think it has to be used on that project. And it really has already. The remaining cash would probably, if there's anything left at the end of 23, we need to just pay it on its principal and get rid of it.
For your accounting purposes, do y'all have those broken out and it's just lumped together for the purpose
Yes.
of the budget?
So they used to be in separate funds, and we were supposed to be done with the LAC and not have that, and so we rolled it into one because there was supposed to be minimal amount left, and that was the advice of the external auditors is that it stay in one. But it's now drug on almost 2 years since that consolidation.
Alright, do y'all have, I'm not trying to rush this.
Are we
just-
gonna put that permanent improvement on a different agenda?
Yeah, it's gonna be on a different agenda.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha.
But yes, I went back a long ways to try to figure out.
It was really good for me to be able to go back 15 years essentially. And
Yeah, see how it grew. It really has grown, and really the influx of that tobacco proceeds and the one note in there, that extra $4 million, wasn't tax revenue. It's really where the biggest amount comes. Plus that other note that we took, the $7 million.
yeah,
Anything that didn't go to the software or equipment purchases stayed in that fund, and that's another way of how it grew. So, That's why there is still money, but we're pretty short, so.
Like $1.2 million, right? Isn't that what you're setting on as you showed?
Yeah, but it's about 600 of it actually is the LEC, so permanent improvement only gets like about half of that.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're running out of money. I need a project finished before we can start anymore. I know Mark wants to start more projects, but
And I think that lesson came through, or not lesson, that desire in the parking too loud.
okay, great.
Over the speaker.
You know, I can stick more money in, but
Those software, were those just certificates of obligation?
No, they can't be. They were not bought with our tax-free notes. They were bought, we borrowed originally the money from Pilgrim to do that purchase.
But they were not voted, those were
no,
not voted.
no, they're not
And
voted.
my understanding,
Just,
Jim, and I
took
never
on.
knew this until bond counsel was telling us that it's restricted, that we couldn't include, like had Patrick's, the jail been a deal with a great big software package that ran all the doors and whatever, we had to exclude that from that.
Because it's not hard costs.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We love soft
Yes, ma'am.
So the breakdown that I found, this was last year's for the health district, $119,949 for a public health nurse position, and $61,683 for vector control chemicals.
More than I thought, Barry.
61,000.
And how much
Send
for that
that to-
nurse?
119.
Yeah, it says
That's a pretty good pay.
for one public health nurse position.
That's gonna include benefits and.
It's-
Well, maybe
That's
so,
gonna
maybe.
include retirement.
Yeah, I
A
bet that's.
35 or
taxes.
40% markup to the actual salaries.
I'll look for the paper that they send in every year, it should have been in your budget books, but it gives more of a breakdown for
Okay.
that amount.
All right, y'all, any other questions?
No,
Okay.
very enlightening.
It is 11:19.